Public Affairs Director, Research Director at Ipsos, Mori. Justin's just been talking about confidence. Normally, when we get a new Prime Minister, there is this honeymoon period, we call it, when everyone feels like everything they're doing is fantastic. It's a fresh breath of air. This hasn't been the same for Liz Truss. Do the public have confidence in her and her Chancellor?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that when Liz Truss first became Prime Minister, the jury was very much out on whether she would do a good or bad job. So our first satisfaction rating for her as Prime Minister showed that 44% of the public said they didn't know whether she was doing a good or bad job as Prime Minister. And I think that, therefore, the first sort of few weeks and months of her tenure is going to be really important in forming public opinion of what they think of her and whether or not she wins the next general election. And I think we're still in the midst of this process. We're still in the midst of this economic crisis, as it were, to see what the public actually think in the end. But certainly, when we're at a stage where Labour are ahead in the polls, you're looking for something that shows the government in control and shows that poll lead narrowing. And we haven't seen that so far.
So do you think that the way the economy is performing so far, how long? Because essentially what Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss are saying is to everyone is stick with us, stick with the plan, let's not lose our nerve. But how long can that moment last? And when will it start to have an effect on people's perception of the Tories' reputation when it comes to economic credibility?
Well, I think there's two unknowns in terms of how long that can last. One is what actually happens in the markets and in the economy. So I think if things were to start getting worse and worse and worse, then clearly that's unsustainable. I'm not an economist. I'm not here to pass judgment on that. But so I think there's a real world reality that will determine how long some of this strategy can last. But also there's a political question about the political will and the unity of the Conservative Party in Parliament. Because, I mean, don't forget that actually the Conservative MPs preferred Rishi Sunak to Liz Truss in the final rounds of voting as Prime Minister. And he was quite critical of some of the plans that Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng were going to bring to bear. So I think really, in terms of how long this process lasts and how it goes, it really does depend on how the economy progresses, but also how united the Conservative Party are behind Liz Truss. And I guess we'll have to wait and see.